Good morning, my beauty. How are you? Welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Miss Pravala, but everyone who knows me calls me MP. This is going to be a long rant video, so if you're not interested, just click off now. No one is forcing you to be here. This is a place where spiritual women come to learn about the spirituality of their sexual energy, especially if you're going through an awakening and you're very confused. Maybe you're still stuck in shadow work. Maybe you can't see how being a spiritual is tied to your sacred sexuality. So if those are things you like to explore, you're definitely at the right place. Before I start with today's topic, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my channel, and also don't forget to click on the bell icon so I don't get messages like these. So as I said in the beginning of this video, this is going to be a rant. As you may already know, the stuff I talk about, I don't need to prepare for. I just get the camera, get the lights. If I'm already wearing makeup, amazing. If I'm not, so be it. I talk about stuff that I know is going to serve you tremendously on your journey as a woman who may have had programming of lack of scarcity, any type of false morality programming around being a sexual being. As a spiritual, you are a sexual being. That's part of our coding, our spiritual DNA. It's part of our ancestry. It's part of one of the talents, the innate talents and magic we hold within us. The title talks about toxic pseudo spiritual star seeds. You may be one of them. As I teach in my spiritual membership, we are all tied at birth to divine ethereal entities, but also to demonic entities that are linked to all of our egos. When you don't do your daily ritual as a woman, when you don't connect to your womb, when you don't practice sacred self-seduction, when you don't use tools of self-seduction, you may go to someone like me and use potions. You may go to someone like me and use sacred lingerie. You may go to someone like me and use mantras and divine Venusian singing, or you might go to other sacred feminine awakeners who may have other self-seduction protocols. Don't forget to buy my program called Moaning to Manifest. It's my white tantra program focusing on sacred moaning, basically the ritual that you have to do as a woman in the morning, in the evening, to connect to what I call the sacred pleasure principle, which is at the core of transformation, of alchemy. Basically, you want to have and be everything that you want, and at this point as a spiritual you feel blocked. It means that you have not connected to your sacred sex goddess. Sexual energy is what we are. So this is the program that I put together initially for my custom potion package clients. So they buy a potion that I made custom for them, and they get to practice their daily yoni womb tantric ritual, the principle of sacred moaning. It's a 35-day program going from one chakra to another, discovering the blocks that you have within you, becoming your own healer, and just really simply win at life. Be a spiritual, love the experience of being a spiritual, and connect with your own sacred goddess temple. The bottom line is, to remain in your divinity, you have to do divine, sacred feminine rituals as you go to sleep, which is when your body separates from your other self and explores the other dimensions spontaneously. And when you wake up, when you're back from your traveling and you need to make the lessons that you learned, the people that you saw, and the directions, instructions that you got from when you were in the sleep state, basically in your spiritual awake state. So in the morning, that's why we do the rituals, so we don't fall back into the traps of believing in the matrix. The programming is so heavy. Most of you have been swimming in the oceans of confusion and all types of false truths that it is absolutely mandatory to provide the same amount of devotion and commitment to getting back to loving yourself in a spiritual way, which is basically connecting to your goddess entity. The run starts here. When are you a toxic starseed? So If you're here, I'm sure you already know that most people are star seeds, divine incarnations coming from other dimensions, other galaxies, other cosmos, other universes, and with a choice to go through life on earth, the experience, the lessons learned, the school that life in the 3D is. And then you got in a loop of reincarnation, learning the lessons and failing at other lessons and getting hopefully higher and higher and closer to your divine origin. The thing is, with the rise of the internet and the rise of everyone and anyone having an awareness of their spirituality, but still being stuck to their egos and camouflaging all of that with a big layer of spiritual morality, spiritual pseudo, people think that they're spiritually superior or that they know best just because they've encountered one type of spirituality. What's going to happen is that as a star seed, you're supposed to be light, you're supposed to be loving, you're supposed to have all of your energy centers aligned at all times, being non-judgmental, being all loving, being always in alchemy, meaning always creating, always keeping the connection with your divinized ancestors, and keeping the communion, the yoga, the union with your divine self. So in the Vedic sciences, the Hindu mystical teachings, and even the mainstream sort of fake new age teachings, we talk about several layers of your body, right? Coming into one, and that's what the Sanskrit word yoga means. Having all of your bodies coming into one. Your sattvic body, your Buddhic body, all of that. When you get into ancestral spirituality, the spirituality of the cosmic mother, which is really tied to indigenous spirituality, which is where I'm from, an indigenous culture still practicing untouched, unplayed with spirituality that has had no influence from the West or the internet. Basically, spirituality that remains uncorrupted. What the Vedic teachings or even the Buddhist teachings or sciences would call alignment, yoga, or having all of your chakras into one. We, with the eyes of the initiate, see that all of these several bodies that are you, that are inside of your aura or sometimes outside of your aura if your aura is depleted, are actual entities. They're part of your divine family. And the main one as a woman is your goddess. And there's also your sacred husband. You will see if you follow me on Instagram what in my culture the symbols of those two entities are. But basically, if you live a life where those entities are not back inside of your auric field, meaning that tied back to you, that is what we call goddess awakening, then you stay depleted. And many times you're going to fall into toxic, which is synonymous for what I call in my spiritual membership, which you should join for sure, call it demonic. Basically, you have a close tie to entities that keep you spreading anything but all of the variations of love. I will speak from the perspective of being a Venusian starseed, which is the genre, the origin that I know most because that's what I am. But I have 21 years now of practicing spirituality, of being a spiritual and actually making money from it and thriving from it. And I'm still here today, expanding. Let me give you an example, which is something that I see more and more. I have daughters. They're preteens. They're 13 and 14 years old. So I tend to stay close to them to see what they're exposed to on social media. So I watch TikTok when I have time. I have seen horrible interactions, and I have seen on TikTok interactions that I know are really an expression of toxic star seeds, especially in the field of spirituality, where you're going to have someone posting a video, in the comment thread, someone making a comment, and then everyone else being triggered positively or negative. I don't know if you can be triggered positively, but basically having the urge to comment, to giving away your energy. As a Venusian, as a balanced, aligned Venusian, we are very stingy of our energy. Venusians will not often feel the need to give an opinion, especially when they know they're in the right. especially when they know that, people are there fighting amongst themselves. Definitely, we're not ones to feel like we need to be in the place where everyone else is mingling. We're very exclusive of our energy. We tend not to want to mix. So if you see a toxic Venusian on, I'm going to use the example of TikTok, who comments, it's going to be, for example, I have a very concrete example of that. I saw a post from a girl who was showing that she was doing hair, and the video was really, really aesthetically pleasing. And then there's one person that commented, and that said, I'm just paraphrasing, of course, she's charging way too much. There are women in my neighborhood who charge less and do a better job than she does. This is a Saturnian, toxic Saturnian answer. Saturnians are always people who think that they are morally superior to others. They are cube people, and when they're aligned, they would make amazing spiritual leaders. You find a lot of them being great at, the great priests, for example. Saturnians do good in turning spirituality into religion. They love dogma. They love, like I said, moral superiority. They love to think that they know more. They're definitely naturally more logical, so they're people who would not see the value of spending or overspending money, as their energy needs to be contained. So a toxic Saturnian would definitely say something like that, like, she charges way too, she's ripping you off. So she's a toxic Saturnian. She's ripping you off. There are women who do better in my neighborhood for cheaper. So this is also a very ignorant comment from that Saturnian that I saw, because it means she doesn't understand what energy is. I'll make another video on the value of magic, why exactly people would feel so normal to charge a price and never judge that it's high or not high based on what they know their energetic value is. But then from that comment, there were a couple of comments from Venusians that I saw. So a Venusian who is in her toxic and in her demonic trait would love to gossip. Venusians are talkative. Venusians are creative and expressive. We're tied to our womb, and if you know my work, you know that we are, of course, that's why I'm here, right? Tied to our sexual energy, so our womb. And the equivalent of that, and I actually explore that in my program, Moaning to Manifest, that you should definitely pay for and, start practicing your rituals. But here, you have the throat chakra, where you have the second holy grail, the masculine holy grail. A Venusian who is in her toxic demonic aspect would be envious of someone else's thriving. Instead of being supportive of someone else being in her abundance, she would feel that scarcity, the reflection of that scarcity within her. So she's going to gossip. A Venusian, a typical toxic Venusian, would actually not have anything to say about that person, because she has nothing against that person really, but she would go to the page of that person, try to look at her profile and do a character bashing, because of the gossip nature of a toxic Venusian. When you are in your spiritual awakening, it is absolutely important to remain in a state where, first of all, you refrain from judging. Everything that happens, whether you would judge it as good or bad, is the result of a soul contract. It's the result of two or several people that have actually said before incarnating that they would have an interaction that would actually have an exchange of energy. And the easiest, fastest way right now to exchange energy is money. Money is the exchange of energy that has the most effect on us, because basically people pay for the magic they get. When you show up in your full aligned self, whatever amount you charge based on you knowing your worth and you being led by your magic team, it means that there are people who know what they're getting from the exchange that you have. Now you're going to have people in their toxic scarcity, anger, jealousy, envy. All of the toxic traits are going to trigger them, and based on their starseed incarnation, they're going to lean into the behavior that is closest to them. An Arcturian, for example, in that case, would definitely be someone who, if they're really, really toxic, would find a way to block the person, to find a way to even hack the person and have their account closed. A Saturnian would just, a typical Saturnian, being really in their really, really demonic self, would go as far as creating a movement, creating a website or a blog where they're basically feel that they're so superior, they have all the knowledge, and they're here to put out a person and what's the word in English? Basically prove that that person is not a good person because they know best. And everyone else who's in their demonic state, meaning their ego state, but still feeling superior spiritually because they have this knowledge. When you have in actuality this knowledge, but you think your knowledge is this, that's when it gets dangerous. So a Saturnian would definitely be someone who would go as far as, yes, taking action to prove to the world that this person is a bad person or a person is ripping you off, because Saturnians are really cheap people. But I'm not judging, it's really their nature. They're, if you marry a Saturnian man, woo! For a Venusian, it's really, really hard, unless the Venusian is really in their scarcity and is not aware of the worth of her magic. But anyways, this was a rant for you to observe, really, an excuse to observe where you are right now. Where are your triggers? Observe your behavior on a daily basis and start being mindful of the actions you take, the thoughts you think. Anything that is not spreading love for you is a sign that you should seek alignment. You should seek self-love a little more. You should seek ways of learning self-seduction so you don't feel so separate from people who obviously love themselves. Never in excess, always in alignment. From a Venusian perspective, of course, there are ways in which a Venusian can be too self-loving to the point where it becomes egotistical or superficial. You would find that, when you see Venusian women who feel empty on the inside and who are going to, for example, go to do like surgery to alter their bodies, for example, or who would overbuy material stuff to compensate, the void or the emptiness they feel or the loneliness they feel. The first step to feel happiness, abundance, fulfillment, harmony, bliss is to seek what I call in my book the pleasure principle. My book, Addicted to Pleasure, the goddess formula to manifest our most capricious desires. Creating the altar that your body is and loving the experience within your body. That's when you actually become unstoppable and fully magical. When you practice that as a woman, you feel full. You feel love. You don't ever feel the need to react when other people start dwelling in their scarcity, in their demonic traits. So I'm gonna end the rant here. I hope this video found you well. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram. Definitely check out my programs, my spiritual membership if you want to learn more about complex but yet so simple spiritual esoteric teachings. And if you want to learn how to self-seduce and use sacred moaning to manifest you, the goddess, start using your sexual energy to bring magic to your life. I love you and I see you in my next video. Ciao.